Pittsburgh Steelers fans, welcome once again to your Monday. It's no longer a cure for a hangover. It is your Monday question and answer session from BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. My name is Bryan Anthony Davis. Also, we have Tony Defeo, my good partner in crime for, what is it, like going on our third year together?
Yeah, we started out summer of 2017.
So wow, we're going on 3 years together. That's amazing. So it's actually going to be 4 seasons. We're getting ready to start our 4th season. So lots of great stuff happening. Wherever you are, we hope you're safe. We hope you just decide to quarantine yourself with us, Tony and Bryan from Behind the Steel Curtain. First, let's go ahead and give out a shout out to our other friends on BehindTheSteelCurtain.com, the broadcast platform. And of course, you have the editor-in-chief, Jeff Hartman, who you'll see on here 3 or 4 times a week. You'll see him next on Wednesday night with Lance Williams. The Standard is the Standard. Lance will also be on Friday nights usually as well with Yeah, I Said It. Then there's our Stat Geek, Deputy Dave Schofield, who you will see on here on Tuesdays with his brother, Big Bro Sco. And for the Stat Geeks segment, he will also join Jeff and myself on the Thursday night preview show as well. I also missed the Homer and the Hater show with Jeff and Lance as well. So what I'm saying is there's so much stuff going on. Every single day you could go to this YouTube channel, you could find somebody from Behind the Steel Curtain wanting to talk Steelers. So that's exactly what we're doing here. And we're having fun. And you know what? We might be forced to be inside. I know Virginia put down, I believe it was June 1st or 2nd today. Maryland is on lockdown as of 8 o'clock tonight where I live. Tony, what's going on in the Pittsburgh area?
We've been that way for about 2 weeks now. It seems like every week the restrictions get greater, but it's not as bad as it sounds. I mean, for anybody out there, my advice would be just to stay 6 feet away from anybody you don't know, and you can still go out for a walk. You can still go to the store and get gas for your car. Just be smart about it. That's what we've been doing here for 2 weeks, and everybody seems to be fairly happy with it.
6 feet away is better than 6 feet under. Dun, 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 dun. That was really bad. All right, so here we go. We're talking Steelers. We love talking Steelers. But I want to do something fun in the live chat as well. Just let us know where you are in the country. I noticed on the Homer and the Hater show, Jeff did a call out to see where everybody is coming in from. Just want to see where you're at today, but add something. When you let us know where you're going to be, where you're at, and what is your state's law? Like, how long are you quarantined? I just saw, it was great, Zach Eisenman just let us know right now that there's possible potential fines and jail time in Virginia. Zach Figueroa is coming in from one of my favorite places in the world. You know I am a big fan of Los Angeles, California. Love it. Some of these I could guess. Kathy Ford, Michael O'Malley, you don't even have to write down. You don't even have to let me know. I know Kathy is from Kansas. I know Portland, Oregon. You know what? I've been watching the show Stumptown, and I guess that's a nickname for Portland as well. There's lots of great nicknames, Rose City, but I guess they're called Stumptown. And if you haven't had a chance to watch that show, Tony, on ABC with Kobe Smulders, great show. So Portland, Oregon is locked down. Stumptown's locked down. Official lockdown in Kansas. Big D63. I'm so glad to see Pittsburgh, PA in there. There you go. Boo Bash, Gainesville, Florida. Poconos, Dave Tideback, locked down until April 30th. Reginald Rivers, it's been 8 days locked down for him in Bartlett, Tennessee. Kyle L., Henderson, North Carolina, stay-at-home ordinance. Kathy. I'm feeling horrible for Kathy right now. She's supposed to be in Maui this week.
Owie.
Oh, I hope Did you just say owie?
Yeah, that sucks for her. Sorry, Kathy. Plus, you had to deal with my joke. That sucks.
Oh gosh. So Kathy, I hope they get that rescheduled for you. Zach Eisman says $100 to $500 in Virginia for anything other than grocery, pharmacy, shopping, emergencies, and walking your pets in Virginia. Yeah, I know that's kind of like what Maryland's going to be.
That seems harsh because I mean those are the exact stipulations we have here in PA, and everybody's following the rules for the most part, and there aren't any threats of fines. So I don't know why they're doing that in Virginia, but that's not my jurisdiction. So what do I know?
Maryland's going to start. I didn't see the governor's press conference today, but there's going to be something like that as well. You have to even show that you're essential to be out and about. Just Me, Spokane, Washington. They've been in lockdown since the beginning of March. They're looking at April 9th. I know I'm off work until April 17th at this point. Snowman, Willington, Delaware. He's hanging out with Joe Flacco, right? That's where Joe Flacco went to school, right. Delaware.
That's right.
So Snowman's probably like, bring on Joe Flacco. He's wacko for Flacco and hoping that maybe the Steelers pick him up, huh? I'm sure. Michael O'Malley lets us know that liquor and weed shops are still open. That's a good thing to know.
That makes one of our states, because that's not like that here. They closed those down 2 weeks ago.
Ryan Kellerman got yelled at by an older couple for going on a jog today. Got to stay healthy. You keep on jogging. That's no problem. We got your back.
On them, that's all.
You just tell anybody that says anything to you. You just say that Tony and Bad said, stick it.
That's right. That's right.
Maryland is a new hotspot, says Big D63. So I'm in Maryland too. I know Big D63 is not. He mentioned Pittsburgh, PA. Logan D. Lorenzo, Tarentum, PA, and locked down. Almost everything's still open.
All right, Route 28.
So Snowman will not root for Flacco because he was a rat bird. He was actually a Pitt Panther for a second, right?
He came here and he couldn't beat out Tyler Palko, so he transferred.
You could beat out Tyler Palko, couldn't you?
I'm left-handed like him, yeah, probably.
I didn't know you were a lefty.
Yeah.
So let's get into it. Let's get into it. Ezra says, "What's up, Steeler Nation?" So what is up is the fact that the Steelers were fantastic in free agency. They exceeded our expectations in free agency with everything that they did. And when I say everything, I like every move that they made as far as the whole landscape of it. And the reason I'm saying that, of course, you bring in Eric Ebron, which was made official just about 20 minutes ago as we record this on Monday afternoon. So Eric Ebron officially signed his 2-year deal. They were worried about that on Twitter, weren't they, Tony?
Oh, yeah. They were talking about that today. What are the reasons? Was there some kind of injury issue? But here we are, and he's under wraps for good, so we're happy.
That's true. That he's in, and we're ready to roll with him. We know that TJ Watt's already signed. We know that Derek Watt has already signed his contract. The same with Stefan Wisniewski. Those guys were chomping at the bit. They were so excited to do so. Chris Wormley is also a Steeler, and he doesn't have to sign anything because he was traded. But an interesting thing about Chris Wormley, he was non-essential to the Ravens because they picked up 2 guys, Calais Campbell, which I think is a great pickup, and Michael Brockers, which I think is a greater pickup, until Michael Brockers did the not so fast, boys. I'm signing with my old team LA instead. So he didn't show up, and now he is signed a better deal with the Los Angeles Rams. I believe they went and got Shane Ray to make up for that. No, Derek Wolfe, not Shane Ray. And Derek Wolfe's a good pickup from the Broncos, same team. But the thing about them is I was worried that they're like going to be like, all right, screw you. Oh, we're going to go get Clowney. You know what I mean? And that would seem like a Ratbird move. Those guys, they know how to make the trades. That's one organization that I respect when we talk about their front office moves. They know how to make them. They are on the short list. I think the Steelers are on a short list as well. JT Sports says, realistic chance we sign Jameis Winston. We talked about that a little bit last week. We'll probably talk about that a little bit later. The reason I'm bringing up JT Sports is I hope I didn't lose it, but there it is. He brought up in the live chat a question already, and we will go ahead and I'll answer that question now, but we'll answer all your questions in the live chat in probably about 20 minutes, so hold off on those. We'll go ahead and do that as we get into the topic of the show, and the topic is, what does win now look like? And I was talking about all those free agency deals. Win now looks like what they did. Letting go the guys they had to let go, signing a franchise tag to Bud Dupree, signing those three other players we just mentioned, Watt, Wisniewski, and Ebron, trading for Wormley. That's the epitome of win now, isn't it, Tony?
Oh yeah, everything that they did, the big picture. At first, you were a little concerned that they weren't going to make any moves, but when you look at it after the first week or so, it almost seems genius. I mean, you go out, you address the tight end position, you get at worst depth along the offensive line, you address your fullback position and your special teams with Derek Watt and then Wormley defensive line depth. So yeah, it really looked. I was really pleased with what they did in free agency. They definitely look like a team that's interested in winning next year and not down the line. So
to answer JT Sports' question, Winston could be really a win now signing if they were to go do it. I don't think it's going to happen at this point. I just don't think that is the win now move that they're looking at, because it could be win now by having a quality backup for Ben Roethlisberger if Ben Roethlisberger goes down. But really, win now has the expectation that Ben Roethlisberger is going to be healthy. That's what they're doing. So I'm going to go ahead and answer that question. I doubt that they're going to bring him in. There's always that possibility, but there's new teams like Jacksonville and Denver looking like landing spots for the number one overall pick from 2015. But Tony, I'm going to ask you a question. We talked about winning now and all the moves they made. Now, the draft is less than a month away. How do you extend win now to the draft? What does win now look like in the 2020 NFL draft?
Gosh, I've been thinking about that question since you brought up the topic before we went on the air. It's hard to say because with them drafting so late, with their first pick, 49. I mean, it's hard to identify a specific position and a specific player because you just don't know what's going to happen. It's hard enough to predict the first 10 or 20 picks, let alone the top 50. But if I were them, I would. Win now to me would be you have to be smart about the first pick, and you can't fall in love with a specific position or a specific player. You just have to let the board come to you. And I think Kevin Colbert says that every year, but I don't think he means it because they often do draft for need in the first round. But being in the second round, I think everything's on the table from outside linebacker with Dupree possibly gone next year, inside linebacker with their lack of depth. Safety depth, more revamping the offensive line for the future because those guys are getting up there. So I think it's just a matter of being smart and really going after the best player available this time.
Well, JT Sports brings this up, Tony. He brings up an $1.99. Thank you for that. Draft another halfback, James Conner is fragile cargo. I messed that whole thing up. He's fragile cargo. Excuse me. So that's probably, I think a lot of people want a running back now to win now with. Would you say that if you were drafting position for win now, that it's running back?
As far as who can make the biggest impact right away, I mean, if you look at obviously the starters along at inside linebacker, outside linebacker, receiver, then yeah, I mean, if you can find a stud running back in the second round, like Le'Veon Bell in 2013, well then yeah, he's going to make a big difference. So that would be certainly the position where the person they bring in can make the most immediate impact if they find a quality guy.
So here's somebody that asked a question, and great participant on our show. We love him. We're a big Dennis Sheridan fan. I am. Isn't every season win now? And I'm going to answer that, Dennis. Yeah, it is. Every season is win now, but here's the thing with that. We talk about the window with Ben Roethlisberger, and obviously with the picks that the guys that they're bringing in here, Wisniewski, he's got a pretty much a 2-year window. They're signing a 2-year deal with Eric Ebron. The guys they're bringing in seem to be a short-term and not a long-term situation. It does not look like they're building for the future with the guys that they're bringing in. And when we're looking at win now during the draft, if you're looking, Tony mentioned best player available, the dreaded BPA, the famed BPA. Now, if you do that, that means that you might be drafting a guy for 3 years down the line. But right now, they're looking at a 2-year window to lift the Lombardi at this point with Ben Roethlisberger, because I don't think Ben Roethlisberger has more than 2 years in him.
Right.
Maybe a third, but so that's what we're looking at. We're looking at the fact that, you could bring in a guy. You're not going to bring in a project in the second round.
Right.
And you can't if you're looking at win now. To me, what win now looks like, Tony and everybody out there, win now right now looks like a running back if you don't trust James Conner, or another receiver, a stud receiver, because they can. I mean, you could do well. You could never have too many receivers, because possibly 4 or 5. You bring in a guy in to learn as the fourth, and he shines, and shines bright, then you've got a lot of weapons out there. Right now, they were talking about bringing in a tight end. Now they don't have to with Eric Ebron, because bringing in a tight end now will not be win now. I mean, of course, you want to have a tight end for the future. You definitely have to address the offensive line. If you address the offensive line, I don't know if that's less of a win now and more of a gearing towards the future. Now, Jeff and Lance, or maybe it was Dave, but somebody mentioned the other day, is the thing about win now, you don't want to get too caught up in the fact that you're sacrificing the future, because you're really not. The Steelers don't sacrifice the future, but they're laser focused on the remaining Ben Roethlisberger years right now, and they will still do their best to reload after Ben Roethlisberger is gone. But I mean, they're not a team you expect to be in the basement for 4 or 5 years. I mean, case in point, they weren't in the basement last year. They were competing for a playoff spot all the way up until week 17.
Right.
So they weren't. I mean, so it was a situation where they should have been. The reason they made that Minkah Fitzpatrick trade, when I say the Miami Dolphins made that trade, is they expected Pittsburgh to be 2-14 and fold up the tent.
Right.
Pittsburgh doesn't do that. So that's kind of what I'm talking about, of looking towards way into the future or just like adding guys that you could plug and play. And that's really my definition of win now. Let's look at some. I'll let you take some of these, Tony, and in fact, I'm going to let you take over. I'm just going to bring some questions up as I look through, or comments, and I'll let you start with Ezra.
Well, there you go. I'm with Dennis. We're Steelers. Every year is win now. We are not the Browns. That is true. We are definitely not the Browns. And to your point, as long as Ben's here, everything has to be geared towards winning now. I mean, that's why you have to concentrate, on fortifying the offense, fortifying the offensive line. With, as you said, a receiver. If you get a stud fourth receiver in there with the three that they already have, not to sound like a fantasy football fan, but who are you going to cover? And then of course, like I already said, the running a stud running back, who can make an immediate impact. I mean, that's going to change the dynamics of your offense. So, yeah, I mean, as long as he's here, then yeah, they're definitely going to be in win now mode. And the way they've operated lately, even if Ben does retire, I wouldn't be surprised, if there are quarterbacks out there in free agency like there are and were this year. I wouldn't be surprised if they go out and invest in a veteran quarterback like a Cam Newton or a Jameis Winston if Big Ben isn't in the picture and you need a more legit passer to keep you in contention. Let's see, Michael O'Malley, my man Michael. He always gives me a shout out. So let's see, with Duck and Mason, no need for another quarterback yet. Yeah, I agree. I mean, they're obviously comfortable with Mason Rudolph, or I think they would have made a move by now, some kind of move. Not necessarily Jameis Winston or even an Andy Dalton, but they definitely would have brought in a more veteran quarterback if they didn't think that Mason Rudolph was the future, at least as their backup. And there's from Wes. Wes probably one of our smarter commenters. He has a lot of great insights every week. I'll tell you right now, this team is being put together this year to win a Super Bowl. Well, I agree. They have Big Ben. To me, they have that defense and Big Ben, and I think that puts them back in contention, provided he is healthy, of course.
And Tony, I think that's the epitome. Wes's comment is the epitome of win now. But I'm going to give you a follow up though.
Okay. Well, I mean, they've sacrificed this year's number one pick and I guess last year's second round pick, but I mean, a lot can happen. They could go out and they could acquire draft picks in the near future. We don't know. It all depends on what you mean by the future. Do you mean the salary cap? Are they going to be in salary cap hell with all the restructuring? Perhaps. I mean, we saw that in 2013 when they had to cut James Harrison and they kind of forced Hines Ward to retire in 2012. So, I mean, you could be right, but that's the price you often have to pay if you want to win now. I mean, it's hard to do both. It's hard to win now and make a way for the future. And they're one of the best organizations, in my opinion. I'm not just saying that because I'm a Steeler fan. I mean, you've seen how they've remained competitive, through some years when they shouldn't have, based on their salary cap, because they were also drafting for the future.
Now, this next one, we know this guy, and I think I gave him credit. I said that he talked about not sacrificing the future, so he must have missed when we did the old disclaimer with the win now earlier in the show. But go ahead.
That's our buddy Dave Schofield. I hate win now, it's win always. Well, yeah, that's the Steelers mantra. The word is they always want to. Their goal every year is to make it to the AFC Championship game. So yeah, they're always in. They're win always for sure. And they're not the Florida Marlins. Well, I mean, it's easier not to be that in football because you don't have to worry about being a small market team, and there's parity. But yeah, there. Well, I guess. What do you mean by all in this year? They're all in this year, and I don't see that aspect of it because their defense is so young and their offense at least their skill position players are still really young. Their offensive line's pretty old, and so is Big Ben, obviously. But I don't see where they're such an old team that once he retires, they're gonna go down the tubes. I think there's still going to be a good bit of a foundation there, at least on defense.
Look at Ginter Life 77.
What team has 2 starting quarterbacks on it? Thank you for saying that. Very few teams have 2. Actually, it's hard to find 32 starters, like legit starters in the NFL right now. Any year, really. So, like people that want to have a great starter and a great backup, it's hard to find in the NFL. It's just not with the salary cap being what it is, and it's hard to find. The days of seeing Big Ben, Tommy Maddox, and Charlie Batch on the sideline at the same time, those are pretty much a thing of the past. Every team has a quality backup except us. Well,
I agree.
You agree, really?
Oh, okay. Yeah. I agree with that.
Well, I don't know. I don't know about that. Ask the Patriots. What's his name? Stitham. How good he is if he has to start week 1 this year. Stitham, yeah. I mean, he was their backup last year. He's probably going to be asked to start this year unless they sign Andy Dalton, which I'm assuming they would have done by now. But
all right. But here's the thing, though.
Yes.
This is what the great debate from the New England Patriots. Who's responsible for that 20-year run,
right,
in New England? And I think the best evidence that you can go ahead and have is the 2008 season. Tom Brady goes out on the very first game of the year against Kansas City. He's gone for the year. That team goes 11-5, misses the playoffs. That's a really odd. It's really odd to miss the playoffs at 11-5. And they went with. Can you remember who the quarterback was?
Matt Castle.
Matt Castle.
Right.
How many years was he the starter at USC?
I don't even know if he started. Did he start at all?
He never was the starter at USC. Yeah. So Bill Belichick took a guy, and it sounds like I'm waxing Bill Belichick's car, but I'm just telling you, he took a guy that was never named the starter in college.
Right.
And took him to an 11-5 season. They missed the playoffs. But like I said, it's very rare to miss the playoffs, Tony, at 11-5. So if you look at that, they could take a guy like Jared Stidham, but I don't think that's who your week 1 starter is. Well, they can take a guy like that and do well.
Right. Yeah. They can, but I just want to say something about that 08 team, because people bring that up all the time, that what happened after Brady got hurt in week 1 and was out for the year, and they put Castle in. People have to remember that 08 team was basically intact from the 07 year when they went 18-0. It was the most dominant team I think any of us have ever seen, and they were basically one Plexico Burress, actually one helmet catch away from being 19-0 and being crowned the greatest team of all time. That team was mostly still in place in 08. Randy Moss is still there. They still had a great defense, and they still had many weapons on offense. So it was easier, I should say, not easy, but easier for a decent quarterback to go in and sort of be a game manager and get them to 10, 11, 12 wins. And let's remember, the AFC East is usually pretty weak. So they were able to put 11 wins together. They didn't make the playoffs, but can they sustain that year after year after year without Brady? I don't think so, because I don't think last year's team was nearly as good as that 08 team. So we'll see what happens.
Let's go back to Dave again. And, he had an invitation to join us, but he'd rather be a keyboard warrior. And by the way, I agree with Dave. I agree with Dave, but go ahead, Tony.
Being Owen means they are making every move they need for this year, but it doesn't mean they won't do it again next year. Well, yeah, we've seen it time and time again with their maneuverings with the salary cap. You, me, and Jeff Hartman sat here 2 weeks ago and said, there's no way they're going to be able to do anything. They didn't have any money. Well, they found a way, and they made all the moves they needed to make. And I read Dave's column this morning about the salary cap, and after Wormley goes on the books, they're going to have 5.7 million. I think that was the figure. How are they going to make any moves moving forward with that figure? It doesn't seem like they will, but I wouldn't be surprised if they did some more restructurings, maybe cut another player. I don't know who they would cut, but and made room and brought somebody else in. You just never know with them.
I'm going to go ahead and bring up Zach Figueroa, and I wish I could look at his icon there. Is that Heman, Barbie?
Looks like Heman and Barbie. Yeah,
but there's a couple other guys there too. It's really small.
It's the Men in Black cast. It looks like.
Okay, that's really awesome.
Yeah, MIB.
You know what I think I want to do in the future, and this is really going off topic, and I haven't gone off topic in a while, so I'm proud of myself. But I think we need to have an icon March Madness. We need to figure out how to do that and put everybody's icons up there, because some of them are really entertaining. And but go ahead. I digress.
Oh no, yeah, I think that would be fun. A lot of fun. Crazy to think how close we came to the playoffs with Mason and Duck. Yeah. It's because of the defense. Imagine if we had a legit backup. Yeah, well, I mean, name a legit. What's your idea of a legit backup? Those are hard to come by. It's hard to find. It's like I said 2 minutes ago. The days of finding Tommy Maddox and Charlie Batch types to be your second and third string quarterbacks, they're mostly a thing of the past. I mean, look what the starters are taking up $15, $20, $25 million of your salary cap. It's hard to go back and invest $5 or $6 million in a backup unless you're a team that has $50, $60, $70 million of cap space. And if you're a team like that, chances are you're not very good. Well, maybe they do have to do better. And maybe last year was a big learning experience for Mason Rudolph, and he's coming into his third year as a backup, second year as their primary backup. He started 8, 9, 10 games last year. At least he played in that many. So let's see. I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt in just his third year. But when you say we have to do better at the backup quarterbacks, but what are you proposing? Are you proposing they go out and get a Winston or a Cam Newton or an Andy Dalton? I mean, that's the only thing I can. When people say that, that's what I think. I think that they want to bring in a legitimate veteran backup, but evidently they don't agree. And even if they did agree, they don't have the cap space for it. So I think they're going to ride with Mason for one more year.
But Mr. Figueroa mentioned earlier, imagine if we had a quality backup. I'm still, who I keep on saying, if you had Matt Moore or Case Keenum, I'm still in my Case Keenum.
Yeah. Well, those are good backups.
There he goes.
But how
Reggie
much
Rivers knew exactly what I was going to do.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. If they had Case Keenum, I would feel a lot better. But what Case Keenum signed for $18 million, so they're not gonna sign those guys. They can't do it. It's easy for the Browns to do that because they have Baker Mayfield still on a rookie deal, and they have what 20, 30, 40, maybe even more $1 million in cap space. I mean, it's easy to do that when you have that kind of money. They don't have that kind of room. So, they went out and they identified Mason Rudolph in the third round 2 years ago, and they did so with the thought that he would be their backup, Ben's backup for a few years, maybe even more. So, all we have to go on with Mason Rudolph is 8 or 9 games from last year, and he looked okay at times, not so okay a lot of the other times, but it's hard to just go right in there as a young guy, especially the most important position in all of sports, and excel right away. And he clearly did not do that last year, but let's see if he takes that leap. I mean, let's see how much he learned last year and all the adversity he went through. Well, there you go. They're not going to win now without Ben, because no team. How many teams do win now without their franchise quarterback in there? Not many. I mean, how often do you see teams just fall off a cliff when a quarterback the caliber of Ben is lost for the year. It happens way more often than not. And last year, they were able to remain in the hunt till the last week, and that was because that's a testament to Mike Tomlin, to Kevin Colbert, to those moves that they made to bring in Minka Fitzpatrick that changed the entire season for them. So, it doesn't happen very often. If you lose your big guy, you're usually done.
Okay, so this is the part of the show where we're going to go ahead and answer your questions. So that's why we're calling it the Q&A. So get yours in. In the meantime, and I know we have Dave in the live chat. Tony, guess what, man?
What's up?
It's less than a month away, the draft.
Absolutely.
What did we do last year for the draft?
Let's see. Did we have we had our own mock draft? Was that what we did last year?
Yeah, so we're going to do a mock draft, but I figured we were going to, let's have some more fun with the mock draft. You did. Dave, Tony, and I will do our mock draft again. And we'll probably do that not the Monday of the draft, but the Monday before the Monday of the draft. And we will go ahead and do our mock draft. But then I was thinking, and we've got to come up with the logistics for this, but we were going to go ahead and get 32 of you. Ooh. And we'll figure out how we'll do it. And Dave's voting no on the mock. No, he's
outnumbered.
How do you tell somebody to shut up with their keyboard? Shut up, Dave.
STFU.
So basically, what we're going to do is we'll find a way to have you guys on here. And so say we get the first 32 when we open up the email address to go ahead and join us for the mock draft. We will go ahead and with everybody we get, we'll have a random drawing of the first 32. And say we just go ahead and say Ezra Nehemiah is gets the number one pick of the draft. Then he will be the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, he could decide at that time exactly what they're going to do. If he wants to have a trade, if he thinks, you have to come up with who's your pick going to be. And if you trade, you have to say why you're going to trade. Wes Hickok's already in. So we're just going to have some fun with it. I remember Stan and Guy used to do this years and years ago. They would have the callers come in and make their pick. Mm-hmm. And I remember the year that somebody picked, this was like 96, and they picked Mike Logan to the Steelers. And here Mike Logan ended up on the Steelers years later. So that's probably what we'll do. Dave Schofield says maybe we do it on Zoom up to 100 people.
Wow.
We will think of ways that we can do it and do it right here in the hour that we're allotted. But kind of think of some things that we can do and have fun with it. But we'll go ahead and have 32 of you make the picks, and it'll be the first 32 that get in once we post it. So there you go. Maybe we might have fun with it. We might have fun with it and have a trivia question, a draft question that you have to answer to go ahead and get in the mix. Maybe we'll do something like that. We're going to think about it. Desmond Barnes is already saying Cam Akers at 49. He wants to see Cam Akers as a Steeler. Now, Steelers don't have a pick in the 32. So we're going to have a 33rd pick, a 33rd person in there. So after we do the 32 picks, somebody's going to draft for the Steelers at number 49. So we're going to have that as well. So we've thought about that. So we're going to have some fun with it. We're going to do it on Steelers Q&A. So start thinking of how we can go ahead and do the mock draft. So what do you think, Tony? You in?
Oh, sure. Why not? I think that'd be fun. A lot of fun. I mean, I'm not that good at mock drafts. I'm not a great draft Nick, but I'll wing it.
So we'll have to twist Dave Schofield's arm a little bit more to get on the show. Maybe we can get Jeff Hartman's already told me no. When it comes to mock drafts, he's like, no, I can't get him to do fantasy. But I love vodka drinker.
Okay.
By listening to Bad, Case Keenum should be in the Hall of Fame. Maybe I should just order my Keenum Steelers jersey and just wear it.
Hey, I saw a lot of people wearing gosh, what was his name? The Marshall quarterback that everybody wanted to see. Yeah, Chad Pennington. People were walking around Pittsburgh. That's how much I hated Cordell Stewart back then, by the way, which I love Cordell. But anyway, everybody was walking around with Chad Pennington Steeler jerseys like a year before the draft. I mean, that's how bad they wanted. And how good was Chad Pennington? Not very. Just a word to the wise for that kind of stuff.
Wow. Oh, thank you. Hey, you know what? I'm getting room service here in the live chat from the kids. Okay, thanks. You know I'm in a live podcast, right? Okay.
I'm offended.
All right, guys. There you go. Now, well, they don't have their license to drive to Pittsburgh to get that for you, but yeah, a nice beverage, courtesy of the kids. Wow, there you go. And it's actually not coffee, and it's very nice. A nice soda there. So let's talk about that Chad Pennington thing real quick, because we don't have a lot of questions out there yet. So get your Q&A stuff ready too. And I'm also looking, we've got a fight going with Michael Toole and Lance. I think it's good-natured. I hope it's good-natured. Let's make it good-natured. But I also like #jealous at bad. But back to the Pennington thing. You go back in time with the number 8 pick in the 2000 draft. Are you going to continue to take Plexico Burress, or are you taking Chad Pennington there?
Oh, I'm taking Plexico. I mean, Plexico was a great talent. And then if you take Chad Pennington, who wasn't nearly as good a quarterback, then you probably don't wind up with Big Ben. So I'm definitely going with Plexico.
So here's a question, and this leads to another question. Ryan, thank you for bringing this up. Do you guys think it's irresponsible for Juju to be working out and matching passes with like 15 other guys? I don't have a problem with that.
I mean, do you think it's irresponsible that nobody can go anywhere anymore, but everybody still goes to the supermarket? I mean, it's kind of like the same thing. You know, there's 20 people at every checkout every time I go to Giant Eagle anywhere in Pittsburgh. So, you know, Juju working out with 15 other guys, I assume at a football field somewhere. I really don't have much of a problem with that, as long as, you know, they're being smart about it.
Okay, you know, I misread the question. I was not thinking about COVID-19 when he brought that up. So that completely went over my head, because the thing I was thinking about was this. You're looking at the fact that you know, he's working with other guys, and then some people were really upset when they found out that Deontay Johnson was working out with our good friend, Mr. Gummy Richards.
Yeah.
Antonio Brown.
Right.
So do you have a problem with Deontay working out with Antonio Brown?
Not on the surface, because I think it's hard to find somebody with a greater work ethic than Antonio Brown. I think everybody can agree on that. I mean, nobody works harder than Antonio Brown. But
exactly, that's my point.
As long as he doesn't, you know, try to get in his ear and badmouth the Steelers and well, he can do that, but as long as Deontay doesn't start buying into that sort of thing and get resentful and of the media, you know, of his teammates, or, you know, anything like that, because by all accounts, he looks like an Antonio Brown clone on the field. When you watch him on the field, he looks like Antonio Brown. All the everything you read about him coming out of college is true. And in that regard, we just have to hope that, you know, he doesn't become that emotionally and mentally.
Okay. Good. That's great. And I appreciate that. A lot of chatter on the live chat. Remember, we are a one big Steeler family here, BTSC family. I do appreciate that. And hey, I appreciate anybody. Checking in, but we'll keep it civil. So let's just do that. But as far as everything else goes, Ryan Kellerman agrees with you. As long as AB isn't feeding into I lost it there, his anarchist ideology, and that's the best way to put it.
Says it way better than I did.
So, you know what? I tell you what. Let's circle back to the beginning of the show because we're getting ready to wrap things up here. And so how we're going to wrap it up is go back to the beginning. What does win now look like after we've talked for the draft? Win now to me, Tony, means if you're looking at this current Ben Roethlisberger window, if it's win with Big Ben, if that's basically what we can change win now to, that's what we could do. But if it's win now, you're bringing in a weapon or somebody to protect them.
Right.
And you think you've got the defense taken care of, but you might want to think about what that defense is going to look minus Bud Dupree, because that's a part of the win now window. The win with Ben window.
Right.
So as far as that, Wes Hickok says win now needs to result in a Super Bowl this year. I really think that's what they're all in for when Dave mentions all in. I think they're all in. I think they're all in every year, but there's a different desperation when you're looking for and a different sense of urgency when you have a window that is shutting. And that window that's shutting is Big Ben. And we noticed last year without Big Ben what that future looks like, but what that future could have looked like if Ben was there last year.
Right.
But if Ben was there last year, they might have made the playoffs, but his elbow was suspect.
Right.
So if his elbow was fixed, there you go. I'm sorry, Tony, go ahead.
Well, no, yeah, he said his elbow had been bothering him for a couple of years. So, yeah. And they probably don't get Minka if Ben doesn't get hurt last year. So there's a silver lining in everything, I guess.
Yeah, if they're not 6-10 and sucking in 2003, we're not talking about the window without Big Ben 15 years later.
Right.
17 years later. But there you go. So we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. Thanks for everybody in the live chat. Remember to hit like. Remember to tell your friends about it. Remember how proud I am, and I could speak for Tony, how proud the both of us are to be a part of a forum that includes every single one of you. So thank you so much. You mean a lot to us. Everybody in the live chat.
Absolutely.
You're part of my Steeler family, my BTSC family. And that's the most important thing. We celebrate wins. We lament losses. We laugh. We cry. We cheer. We do it all together. We hope. We do a lot of hoping. And we do a lot of speculating.
Right.
And we're like family. We might not always agree, but we're like family. So we appreciate all of you. Thank you so much. You'll see me again on Thursday on the not the flagship, because the flagship is standard as a standard on Wednesday nights, but you'll see me on Steeler Preview with Dave and Jeff, and you'll see Tony once again next week. You'll be seeing more of Tony too, and Tony's going to unveil his own segment next week, and we're going to call it, what are we going to call it, Tony?
Totally Tone Deaf. Totally
Tone Deaf with Tony Defeo. So we're going to have that own segment on our show. We're going to check that out. But until then, to quote the great Rowdy Roddy Piper, just when you think you got all the answers,
we keep changing the questions.
See y'all later, Steeler Nation. Love you.